We live in a country that is made up of many groups of people of different races and many shared cultures. And I think that's what makes the US so known, right? And so set apart is that we're a diverse country. And because we're a diverse country, you would believe that diversity itself is celebrated. Sadly, racism and prejudice is a very prominent thing in the US. And I know that it's a prominent thing in other countries. I'm not trying to belittle their struggles in any way. I'm just primarily focusing today on the US. Um, you would think that because, for the most part, we've survived a global pandemic together, that it would allow people to realize and to see how precious life is and how precious individual lives are, right? We've lost a lot of people over the past year, and sadly this does not ring true for some people because they've decided to place the blame of this pandemic on a certain race. And that is why today I will be discussing the social movement of anti-Asian racism that is occurring, and I'm going to be discussing Stop Asian Hate. I was reading an article by Zaid Jilani, I believe, and he was touching on the subject of how over the past, actually since 2016, there's been a rise in attacks against Asian Americans. However, over this past year, there has been a surge in attacks against Asian Americans, and the difference between that rise is significant, obviously. So it's alarming, right, to see. And I always say this too, that words are very powerful. They leave an impact. And that's why I always say choose your words carefully when you're addressing someone, right? Because whether it's in a positive or in a negative manner, your words are going to impact whoever you're addressing. And sometimes people talk without caring or without realizing the impact that they're going to leave on the people that they're addressing. During his presidency, President Donald Trump made remarks towards Asian Americans and on multiple occasions referred to COVID-19 as the China virus. And I'm not saying that just this particularly triggered that. Obviously, there was other issues that played into that. But since then, there has been a lot of incidents of hate speech toward Asian Americans. And I think also the pandemic in itself, right, has fed into the xenophobia that was already rampant and very prominent in this country. Stereotypes too. Stereotypes are a very dangerous thing because prejudices that people have are based off of stereotypes, and sometimes these stereotypes couldn't be further from the truth. And that's why I see stereotypes as a very dangerous thing, right? Asian Americans are often stereotyped as meek or even passive sometimes, which I don't think that's true, but perhaps that's what leads people to believe that they're easy targets. Because a lot of the targets have been elderly women and elderly people in general and women. I was reading an article by Harvard Health Publishing, and they were touching right on the subject of the importance of breaking stereotypes, and that's a big issue. We need to break stereotypes because stereotypes fuel prejudices, and prejudices sometimes are what lead people to engage in these attacks. And not only that, but the long-term effects, right, that these attacks have had on communities and trauma, right? Trauma is a long-lasting thing. And because the attacks have been on such a vulnerable group, I think mental health is a big concern. And that's because of these attacks. This is how actually Stop Asian Hate came to be. Stop Asian Hate is the name of many rallies that were held across the U.S. at the beginning of this year in response to the death of Vicha Ratampakdi. He was an 84-year-old man who died on January 28th, 2021. He died when he was forcefully pushed in a daylight attack in San Francisco. And I want to say 2 months later, on March 16th, I believe, other rallies were held in response to a series of shootings that occurred in 3 Atlanta spas, where 8 people were killed, 6 of whom were Asian American women. And I think because there's been a lack of response, or maybe not the response that they quite want on the part of law enforcement, people have taken the initiative to do what they need to do to feel safe, right? People have taken initiative to protect those who are vulnerable. People like Jimmy, JB, I think they refer to him as, who started AWA, which is Asians with Attitude. They created this group where individuals will aid elders of the community so that they feel safe. And actually, I was in Oakland not that long ago visiting my sister, and we went to Chinatown and we got to see one of these groups, right, aid the elders of the community, and they help them go grocery shopping. They give them rides wherever they need to go. And I think it was such a nice thing to see, but it's also disheartening to see that people can't even walk down the street without feeling safe, right? And it's sad that it has come to this point. And I think with this movement, along with many movements before, right, they're trying to bring awareness, right, to the unjustified hate and discrimination and the attacks that they are having to endure on a daily basis. They're trying to educate people who are willing to listen, and that's the purpose of social movements. And I think that is the purpose, right, with Stop Asian Hate, to educate those who are willing to listen.